Once upon a time, there was a man and a woman who lived together in a beautiful little cottage on the edge of a large spruce forest. The man and the woman had very little money. In fact, they had so little money that they could barely afford food and drink for the day. The man and the woman owned an old cauldron that the man had inherited from his father, and every day they wished the cauldron would be full of porridge or meat soup. One day, when the man was about to go into the forest to chop wood, he was met by a sight that made the blood in his body freeze to ice. In front of him stood a 3-meter-tall figure with a pair of glowing eyes and a pair of hairy legs, and feet that looked like those of a goat. The figure had a pair of long goat-like horns that looked as sharp as the blade of a dagger. The frightened man realized that the figure standing before him was none other than the devil. The poor man was so scared that he could barely utter a word. "My friend, why do you look so frightened?" said the devil in a friendly voice. "I don't intend to harm you." "You don't intend to harm me?" replied the frightened man. The devil slowly shook his head. "Listen, I have come to help you. I know that you live in poverty, and I know that you wish every day that the cauldron you inherited from your father was full of food to fill your empty stomach. My friend, I can make sure that your cauldron is full of porridge every day. I can make sure that the cauldron is never empty again. I can make sure that you no longer have to live a life of starvation and poverty. Would you like me to change the terrible life you are living right now?" said the devil. The man was utterly speechless. A life without poverty and starvation would be wonderful. "It would make me very happy if you would change the terrible life I am living right now," said the man. "My friend, I am happy to help people who have a difficult life," replied the devil, smiling. "But if I am to help you, you must promise me to do something for me." "What do you want from me?" asked the man. "Just tell me what you want, and you shall have it." The devil smiled again. "Your wife and her body," replied the devil. "Why do you want my wife?" asked the man. "Your wife may be poor, but she is as beautiful as a gemstone. Her copper-red hair reminds me of the beautiful flames that exist in my kingdom, and her twinkling dark green eyes remind me of the color of emeralds. I want to make her my queen. I want to make her the queen of hell. My desire for that woman is so great that I cannot describe it in words," replied the devil. "If you give me your wife, I promise to change your life." The man knew that his wife would not like this, but he could not let go of the idea of living a life free from poverty and starvation. "If you promise to change my life, I promise you will have my wife before the summer is over," replied the man. The devil extended his bony hand. "My friend, you have made a wise decision," said the devil, shaking hands with the man. "I will come back before the summer is over to fetch her," said the devil, and then he disappeared in a cloud of ash and flaming coals. The man hurried home again, as happy and joyful as a king. He longed to get home and taste the porridge or soup in his cauldron. When the man got home again, he was met by his wife running toward him. Her eyes shone with joy and happiness. "The cauldron hanging over the open fireplace is full of porridge. I don't know how it happened, but now we have enough porridge to last a whole week," shouted the man's wife, jumping up and down with joy. "Let me see," replied the man, following his wife into the living room. Sure enough, the black cauldron was full of porridge that smelled absolutely wonderful. "We must celebrate," said the woman happily. "Good idea," replied the man. "Let's eat the porridge until we can't stand up anymore." The woman set out a wooden bowl for herself and her husband, then placed a wooden spoon each for herself and her husband. After the woman had poured porridge into the wooden bowls, she and her husband began to eat. The man and the woman stayed up all evening eating porridge. It was the best porridge the man and his wife had ever eaten, and the next day they had porridge for breakfast. Every day after the man had been out in the forest chopping wood, he and his wife gathered around the dinner table and ate porridge. It almost became a tradition to eat porridge every day after the man had been out working in the forest. The months passed and eventually it became autumn. The tree's leaves changed colour from green to red and yellow, and the air, which had previously been warm and mild, became cold and damp. The man and the woman had eaten porridge all summer, and even though they only ate porridge, they never tired of it. The porridge tasted too good for the man and his wife to get tired of it. One evening, just before the man and woman were going to bed, the man remembered what he had promised the devil. He knew that the devil would come at any time to fetch his wife. The man was overcome with remorse, so much remorse that he could not help but tell his wife about the deal he had made with the devil. "There is something I need to tell you," said the man, sitting up in bed. "What could it be?" replied the woman, sitting up in bed as well. "You are not going to like it," replied the man. "I want to know what it is. Tell me what has happened," replied the woman impatiently. "Oh, the reason we have all the porridge we could wish for is because at the beginning of the summer I made a deal with the devil. He promised me a life free from poverty and starvation if I gave you to him when the summer was over. He told me he wanted to make you the queen of hell, and I agreed to it. I hope you can forgive me," said the man. The man could see his wife's face turn bright red with rage, and he could see her eyes, which had once been so beautiful, turn black with hatred and anger. "Did you promise me to the king of hell just so you could escape a life of poverty and starvation?" screamed the woman in a voice that echoed through the cottage. The woman was so angry that she began to hit and kick her husband. She couldn't understand how her husband could be so selfish as to promise her body away just so he wouldn't have to starve. "I would rather die than become the devil's wife. I refuse to spend the rest of my life down in hell with that monster. What the hell were you thinking when you promised me, your own wife, to that monster?" "What were you thinking?" roared the woman, so that spit flew out of her mouth. "Forgive me," said the man. "I couldn't stand living in starvation and poverty for the rest of my life, so that's why I agreed to give your body to him," replied the man shamefully. The woman threw herself out of bed and rushed towards the window. "Where are you going?" asked the man as he saw his wife, completely naked, climb out the window. "Where am I going? I'll tell you where I'm going. I won't stay here and wait to become the devil's wife. I'm leaving before that monster can catch me. Goodbye. I hope I never see you and your selfish face again," roared the woman, and then she disappeared into the forest. The next day, when the man went into the living room, he saw a cloud of ash and burning coals appear before him in the living room. In front of him suddenly stood the devil. The devil looked around the room. "Well, where is she?" said the devil. "Who are you talking about?" replied the man, pretending not to understand what the devil was talking about. "Don't play dumb. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Where is she?" said the devil impatiently. "Oh, it's my wife you're talking about," said the man. "She is not home right now." "Not home? What is that supposed to mean?" snapped the devil. She is, stammered the man. "Where is my future wife that you promised me?" roared the devil angrily. "I demand an answer from you." "She left when she found out you wanted her and her body," replied the man. "She didn't want to become your wife, so she left when I told her you were coming to get her," replied the man. The devil's eyes began to blaze with fury. "She left?" roared the devil. "How could you let that whore leave when you knew I was coming to get her? How could you let that happen?" roared the devil, shaking with anger. "I tried to stop her, but she left anyway. Please spare my life," begged the man. He threw himself on his knees and held up his clenched hands to the devil. "Get up! From now on, your cauldron will remain empty forever. You will go hungry until you die, and when you die, I will take you to my kingdom, where you will work day and night without any rest." The devil snapped his fingers and suddenly he was gone. Left in the living room was the man, utterly horrified that he would have to starve again and that he would become the devil's slave in the afterlife. Now the man was completely alone in the cabin. He had no food and no wife. The man regretted what he had done. How could he have agreed to sell his wife's body to the devil? How could he have been so selfish? But the man knew that what was done, and there was no use crying over spilled milk. From now on, he would have to live a lonely life in poverty and starvation, without the beautiful red-haired woman who had been his beloved wife.